I'd like to bring in our expert panel once again. Gentlemen, it's good to see you. Jonathan Gilliam and Scott Duffy, both veterans of the FBI. And Scott, if you don't mind, we'll start with you this time. Okay. Tell us your perspective on the information, and I am a little bit taken aback by the plotting nature of that scene that we just saw.
Yeah, so on day one and the subsequent days, we saw a couple of press conferences, and I think it's an agreement widely across all professions that there were a lot of missteps, whether it be that they weren't planning for something of this latitude, where you have something that takes place and thereby you have a press conference and you have missteps with miscommunication, different people taking up to the mic and not being able to provide that information. That being said, I always believed and hoped that the investigation behind the scenes, the investigators, those actually doing the work, were doing exactly as this press conference here has laid out with regards to the collaboration, the divert team, that's the digital video recovery team, the CAS team, the cellular analysis surveillance team, and then of course the detectives going door to door, collecting information, putting out video, stills, and then coming up with an additional person to say, hey, this person could be identified because there isn't a mask. Is this person a co-conspirator, or is this person just a passerby? And then of course, we saw that this person's photo was put out there. He had seen it, and then of course does what an innocent person should do. Hey, I'm the person you're looking for. And from what we gather in this press conference, provided enough information that detectives were able to take additional information and be able to come up to a car, or at least a description of a car, and say, hey, do we have anything like this hitting our LPRs, which were probably in the exits and the entrances of the city. So right. A lot to unpack here, and I thought this press conference was better suited than the ones we have seen.
All right, and you're right. You make a good point. Look, the press conferences were all over the place, and this one frustrated me a little bit, but the investigators behind the scene were on it, and they got the guy we think. Jonathan, what do you make of anything you want to say? And also, I'll highlight a Portuguese national and a former student of the university. And I think at this point, and I don't believe they specified the link that is widely reported to the murder of the MIT professor.
Right. And they haven't given any information out about that because he said he didn't want to step on the toes of those other investigators where that's happening. Well, why didn't you include them in on this, or call them and say, hey, what can we say and what can we not say? If it's not connected, they should probably say that so that people realize there still could be another killer out there. But I think the way Scott, I believe his name is, just laid all that out is incredible. I mean, he shows exactly all the things that are going on behind the scenes. And I agree that the majority of people I know that have been in law enforcement were hoping that that's what was happening behind the scenes. These pressers, Greg, I got to tell you, every time we have an incident like this, it didn't start with New Orleans, but the New Orleans at the beginning of the year, that attack was a disaster as far as the press conferences. And you transpose that to the one that happened in Vegas, that attack on the same day. Their pressers were incredible, very informative and very precise. It wasn't a braggadocious type of pageantry that you see up here, like this is Mr. and Mrs. Rhode Island is what we were watching there. And there needs to be a standard operating procedure for how these pressers are given, because this is a perfect example. Right now, we still don't know if these two things are connected, and if they're not, well, the public needs to know that. And these are things that were missed along the way. The things that could have been pointed out by these individuals, these law enforcement individuals. Do you know somebody who stands with their arms behind their back? Do you know anybody who carries a satchel around their neck, like the way the sling bag that individual was carrying it, and that is built like him? They pointed out some of them, but not all of it. Do you know anybody who has a vendetta against somebody in the engineering building? They didn't even tell us what was going on in that building when the shooting occurred. And I don't know if we've ever heard anything except for it was finals week. So this is information. See, right there, a small percentage of the population stands like that when they're looking for something. These are things that the public needs to know so they can help. And I think in this case, what you saw tonight, we're still at a loss for who this guy was. And potentially, let's say that he could have had somebody else he was working with. We don't know.